Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about how version 1 turned a 9th to 12th place finish in regional number 1 of the spring split into a victory in regional number 2 of the spring split. That's just a fortnight gap between these two events. V1 have obviously massively improved, and with that win, they've put themselves first equal in points with Complexity going into the final regional of this split. Now, this isn't the topic of the video, but just very quickly want to mention just how close North America is going into that last regional. If you weren't interested in watching, this might change your mind, because just look how many teams are in striking distance off the top 5. No one in the top 5 is safe. They all need to perform. No one's a lock going into the last regional, which is crazy. There's usually some, 2 or maybe even 3 teams who are clearly locked or essentially locked for the major. Top 5 will go to that major. But no one's locked for NA, which is amazing for entertainment value. I can't wait to watch. But like I said, that's not the topic of the video here. We're going to talk about version 1 and what they did differently this time around compared to the first regional, where it was a massive failure. Not only finishing 9th, 12th, but also being swept out of the tournament by Complexity and Furia, who both looked really good on that day. But still, these aren't the results V1 were hoping for. Compare that to regional number 2. V1 only lost 3 games the entire event. They only dropped 1 game to Complexity, 1 game to Space Station, and 1 game to FaZe. They swept Optic, swept Shopify Rebellion. Incredibly dominant performance to win the entire thing. Now, the takeaway after regional number 1 for me, I made a video about this, which actually, to give myself some credit, aged pretty well. I made a video about their first regional not going too well for them, and encouraged you guys not to jump to conclusions, because you can't judge a team based on one event. And yeah, that's actually looking pretty good in hindsight, because they won the second one. But I think the more interesting thing, I didn't just make a video to say, hey, look at me, I was right about that. I think the interesting thing to talk about today is the playstyle difference, because it's very clear in regional number 1 that V1 were trying to do a more standard playstyle where everybody does a bit of everything. There's no clear defined roles from your players on the pitch, and you try to just all be jack of all trades. And just dominate the midfield with mechanics and pressure. That's what a lot of the best teams in the world do, like Carmine Corp, Team Liquid, BDS back in their prime. A ton of teams, have used that kind of jack of all trades play style. No clear roles, to great success. V1 with Torment were actually one of the more defined roles, or one of the teams with more defined roles, with Torment as a clear third man, Com as a clear first man. So they moved away from that previous V1 playstyle in regional 1. It didn't work out well. But actually, before we look at some stats about V1's regional 1 and 2, let's listen to Com in a post-match interview. Actually, 2 post-match interviews. This is after their upper bracket semi-final win over Space Station. Let's hear what he had to say on the topic.
Coming out of the last regional, none of us took it hard at all. It was our first regional together, and we knew there was a lot to learn. There were a lot of good signs, a lot of things that we could definitely improve. Coming out of it, we decided, instead of trying to play the ideal play style, maybe the best way to play Rocket League, if all of your players are perfect at everything, we're going to play to our strengths. We all have things that we're all very good at, and we're going to try to make sure that we're all in those spots as much as possible, and make sure that we play to each of our individual strengths.
Oh, I wonder what...
So the interview goes on. That's on the Rocket League channel, if you want to see more of it. Let's listen to another interview with Com where he says a similar thing. This is after winning the entire event, so he'll be interviewing Com, asking a pretty similar question about what was different between regional 1 and 2.
What was the difference between this regional compared to last?
We ended up losing the last regional, but we didn't take it very hard because we knew there was a lot to learn. I think the number one thing that we took away is the style we were trying to play. None of us were comfortable with. And I think at the end of the day, what matters most when you're playing is that you're comfortable, especially when you have 2 players as talented as we have on our team here.
Oh, get out of town. Put yourself in that convo.
Well, that's what I started thinking is, like, I think I'm like an average pro, but I have like a AoE debuff. Like, I just bring the other team down. So it's like, my teammates are incredible. I'm like, I'm not as good as them. I'm not going to claim to be, but I can bring the other team and make them just as bad as me.
I love that, so obviously Com kind of explaining this topic pretty well. They tried to style a very standard style that all the best teams in the world, maybe not all, but most of the best teams in the world go for in Regional 1. Didn't work in the short term. Maybe long term they will do that. But for now, they're sticking to what they know. And I love that bit at the end there from Com saying he is an AoE debuff. That really speaks to me as a fellow Zero Mechanics. Not that Com is Zero Mechanics, but as a Zero Mechanics player, I try to bring everybody down whenever I play ranked, and I think he's the best in the business at doing this. He makes the game so difficult for his opponents that it's impossible for them to play at their best. Meanwhile, his teammates Daniel and Beast Mode were able to thrive. But before we get into, I'm going to show you guys one game that I think really highlights what happened in this entire V1 run. Before we do that, here's some stats, and I've highlighted the important one. This is from ballchasing.com. Shout out Ball Chasing. If you want to support Ball Chasing, I'm not affiliated in any way. I just think the site's really cool. You can go over to Ball Chasing. There's a Patreon that you can support them to keep the site up and running. Amazing resource in the Rocket League scene, of course. But this is these are the stats from their first series in the opening regional. So it's this series here against Shopify Rebellion. V1 against Shopify. They 3-0'd that series. But notice Com was actually not the player who is the most forward. Now, most forward is just a simple stat, which how long on average per game did each player on their respective team spend as the furthest advanced player on the pitch. You'll notice here, Com 130 seconds, Beast Mode 132. So Beast Mode is actually in front of Com more marginally than Com was in front of Beast Mode, and Daniel spent the least time furthest forward, most time at the back. Beast Mode actually noteworthy did spend more time as the furthest back than Com. Although he wasn't the furthest forward as much as Beast Mode, he was actually furthest back less than Beast Mode. But yeah, there are a lot of stats on your screen there. Though this is the one I want to highlight because I think it shows you the change between these two regionals that V1 have applied. Let's look at the complexity series. This is a series where V1 were 3-0'd. Com furthest forward, slightly less than Beast Mode, actually quite a bit less than Beast Mode on average per game. And also he was most back, more than Beast Mode. So Beast Mode against complexity was actually their first man per se. A bit more than Com was. Com trying to be a bit more of an all-rounder in this match. Didn't seem to work that time. These are the stats from the Furia series. Again, V1, they lost this one 3-0. And again, you'll notice Beast Mode is forward more than Com, who is forward more than Daniel. And yeah, in this series, Com was back more than Beast Mode as well. So this is a very simple, and it doesn't tell the full story, but I think we could tell from watching the games, yeah, Com wasn't really free to push up and do what he usually does in these series where they lost 3-0 to Complexity and Furia. Com didn't really look like himself on the pitch. He was a bit more of a defensive version of Com. It didn't seem to suit him. But let's really quickly let's go through this regional that they just won. This is the first, again, they played Shopify. They 3-0'd Shopify a second time. But notice this time, Com is the most forward out of the team, with Beast Mode and Daniel most forward less than he is. We actually, interestingly, have Beast Mode as the second. He's the second most forward, but also the least back. So he's a very clear second man there from Beast Mode, at least based on positioning relative to each other. Now let's look at the Complexity series. They're able to win this one 3-1, avenging their regional 1 loss. Com, again, forward the most out of the team. Beast Mode less than him, Daniel even less, and Com this time back the least. Daniel back the most. So a very clear third man for Daniel in these games. Pretty clear first man for Com, second man for Beast Mode. Com again, and this is in the third series. They 4-0'd Optic Gaming. Sorry, my mouse wheel's jumping around here. Com 125 seconds on average per game as the most forward. Here you got Beast Mode with 110. Daniel right here. Again, very clear. Third man role for Daniel. He's back the most. Com forward the most. Beast Mode in the middle the most. Actually very similar time back to Com, although slightly less for Beast Mode. Not the only time we see this. Now, two more here. This is the Space Station series. V1 4-1 to SSG. Com forward an absolute ton in this series compared to Beast Mode and Daniel. And Daniel, again, back the most. Beast Mode back second most. And this is the last series. Com, an even more ridiculous time spent forward, 163 seconds on average per game. Now, there were a few overtimes. That's why these numbers don't always add up to be the same, because we did have some overtimes which do increase everybody's overall time forward and back. But relative to each other, you can see that Com is obviously forward a lot more on average than Beast Mode and Daniel, and he's back a lot less than Beast Mode and way less than Daniel. So clearly, at least based on these stats, you can see that in the second regional, Com did stay forward more, and that enabled him, let's watch one of the games from the final, to do what Com does best, and that's demo everyone and just make life impossible for them. So we're on Com POV here. We're going to watch one game just to finish off this video. This is from the grand final. This is the opening game against FaZe. Already you're seeing Com sticking around an offense a ton there. You know, if he's a third man in that position who's ended up front, you would want to be defaulting to rotate back a lot of the time. Not Com, he just stays upfield, not once but twice, trying to make himself as annoying as possible to deal with. And just to really quickly explain, I know I've done this in quite a few videos in the past. I'll very quickly explain, you know, what a first man is for anyone who's new to Rocket League or new to RL Esports. A first man is just a player on any team who will default into aggressive positions when options are available to him. So there is clearly an option there for Com at the very opening play of the game to rotate back or to stay upfield. Here again, he's got options. He didn't have to advance here. He could just as easily have rotated back, but no. Plays for the boost steal, plays far forward, just to keep pressure on the midfield, keep pressure on the opponents. Now, compare that to a third man like Daniel on this team. He will default back most of the time. So you will see Daniel forward like he was there, but notice what Daniel's doing immediately after that attack. He's straight back into defense. That is what the third man does. It doesn't mean that you're always going to be in defense, but it does mean that if you have options where to rotate or to stay up front like Com is here, you're going to rotate back a lot more. Notice Daniel again exiting right of your screen there, rotating back. Meanwhile, Com has just been lingering in the middle of the box this entire time. So first man, second man, third man in Rocket League, sometimes confusing. So Com just runs ahead of the ball, forces his first killer jump, and now Daniel comes in for the easy goal. Well, I'll say easy, he did brilliantly there with the timing. 1-0 v1. But yeah, first man, second man, third man, more about tendencies rather than you know, set positions. You don't have set positions in Rocket League, it's a very fluid game. But the first man is just a player who will tend to be more aggressive. As you see Com here, again, he doesn't even have boost here, but he's staying upfield. He is running ahead of the ball, and this is just something FaZe have to worry about. They've got to pay attention to him, and this looks like this time they did actually do a really good job staying clear of danger, producing a decent attack on target. It was well saved by Daniel. Com there, narrowly missing a bump. Daniel going to come in from third and bangs in a second goal. Very, very safe commit there for Daniel. And one thing that I also have to mention when you're talking about first, second, and third man in Rocket League is a lot of people don't really think third man sounds very fun. They think, oh, well, this doesn't sound great at all. I don't want to be the defender. I don't want to be Gibbs. I don't want to be sitting in net. But the good thing about being third man is that actually you get to have a lot of clear-cut chances on net if your team are doing what they're supposed to do in front of you. If Com, as the first man, is running a riot and making life difficult for the other team, and Beast Mode is out playing people in the midfield, then Daniel's going to get a lot of clear-cut opportunities where he doesn't need to take risks. He's just going to come in, use his speed, use his accuracy, and use his power shots from the air to just snipe top corners. And yeah, I think this is why after the first event went wrong for them, I was immediately thinking this team just has to do what worked best for them before Daniel joined the team. It just makes sense. Daniel's a natural third man for his whole career. Torment, the player he's replacing, is a natural third man. Just slot in, let Com and Beast Mode continue to operate as they have done for years at this point. So far seems to be working, and I think that they're likely to continue with this style into Regional 3 and maybe even be the team to beat in North America, because they've got the momentum now. I know it's a month between now and the next event, but they're going to be really, really confident going into that last event. A lot of other teams going to be, I think, a bit quaky, as they didn't look too great in Regional number 2. Yeah, you guys let me know in the comments if this whole topic makes sense. I really hope it does make sense. First man, second man, third man. Their terms are thrown around a lot by Rocket League commentators and Rocket League fans, but I feel like it can get confusing where newer viewers especially will think, well, are these set positions? Well, obviously no, they're not. As you can see on the pitch here, Com doing a bit of defending every now and then, Daniel doing a lot of attacking every now and then. but it's all about tendencies. It's all about what you want to do, or what you can do as a default option. I mean, Com here is leaving Beast Mode and Daniel to defend, but he's turned that into a 2v2. He boxed missed out of the play, so it's straight up a 2v2 there for Daniel and Beast Mode. And Daniel and Beast Mode are the best 2v2 combo in North America, so it makes sense. First killer here trying to fight fire with fire. Com pretty good at seeing that one coming. But there is more to come in this game. It's I've not picked out a short game for you guys, so spoiler alert. We are going to be in for a treat here, seeing an extended battle between the two teams. FaZe down with not a lot of time left, but now Com gets 1v1 by Statistical. Great shot there by Statistical on the half volley to tie the game with just 15 seconds left. One thing you also have to watch out for V1 in these events is their double diagonal kickoff. They've been doing double fake kickoffs, which is really cool to see. You know me, I love my kickoffs, and I have to shout out any team that's doing anything away from the standard kickoff that every team at the pro level likes to do. So well done V1, love the mix-up, can't wait to see more of that in the future. But yes, we are going to overtime here, and we're going to get to see more Com rampages up front. So far he's been taking very, very scenic routes around the pitch, not panicking at all about leaving Daniel and Beast Mode in the midfield and in defense. Here he's sitting in the back post just to give Beast Mode a passing option. Beast Mode decided to use that as bait to send the ball towards the near post, and it looks like Daniel and Com there might have not quite been on the same page with that near post attack. They both wanted to move in on it. Yeah, overall, I think I'm loving what I'm seeing from this team. I think that this is the style that will suit them the best for now. Like I said at the start of this video, maybe long term they can adapt into more of a standard style where Com will play more of a midfield role and Daniel will be able to push up more. But this is what makes sense right now, and I would love to see them do this for the rest of the season. And you know, a lot of people yesterday on my live stream, I was view partying the event where these matches took place. A lot of people were asking, how do I think this style will do against Europe? Now, I think it will do fine. I don't think it's a counter by any means, but I think it will match up quite well. The reason being, Com is putting a ton of pressure on the ball, and you have to do that against the top teams in the world right now, or they are just going to have so many more chances to score on you than you do to score on them. Sometimes another thing that's worth mentioning, I meant to say this earlier, the reason why having clearly defined roles can be helpful, and I think will help V1 in this kind of learning period for them, because they are still very new as a team together. Now, having clearly defined roles for a new team can be very helpful, because sometimes communication is difficult with new teams. You need to learn the tendencies and the comms that your teammates like to use. That was highlighted actually a few times by Com in those post-match interviews. He said that the comms, ironically, are the things that they need to work on the most. So the reason clearly defined roles like V1 have here help with comms is because you don't have to. That's a great save there by Statistical, or miss by the way. But you don't have to wait for the comm to come through, and by comm I mean communication. You don't need to wait for the call to come through to know what comm is going to do. Like Daniel and Beast Mode, they know what he's going to do. They don't need to oftentimes hear him say that he's going to turn upfield. They know if they see him upfield that there's a good chance he could stay there, and that means that they can automatically make the right play in tandem with that. Com, meanwhile, if he sees Daniel upfield, he'll know that most of the time Daniel's going to be rotating back, so he can prepare himself for that by moving into an aggressive position that will be backed up by a defensive Daniel momentarily. This is, I think, one of the reasons why V1 are having a ton of success. Com here just making another pass across the box. Notice he doesn't overstay his welcome. If it doesn't really look like the timing is working out for one of these bumps, he is happy to leave. Taking a bit of a defensive position here. Com staying wary of Statistikal's bump there as well. Now Daniel actually doing a really good job at the near post there with his slow play. Com again, back all the way here. You know, he's not forcing himself. He's not living in the other team's half. He just looks for opportunities to get into their half, and this is one of them. So notice there, Beast Mode looking to center the ball towards one of his teammates. Com is just in the FaZe corner here. Didn't really make any contact with anyone there, but this is just annoying to go up against. FaZe would rather Com leave. They just want him to go back into his half so they can just chill out and play their style that they want to play, where everybody respects them. But Calm is not doing that. Again, he's just come to life and he's in their face, making space for his teammates, who have hardly put a touch wrong all game, with all the space and time that they've had on the ball. Beast mode. Now, over 4 minutes into overtime, trying to make something happen. Calm just forcing first killer wide here. Good boost management as well before he catches Mist unawares. So Mist wasn't paying attention to that one. Calm spots an opening to bump him. You know, we really can't underestimate and can't understate how good Calm is at landing demos. I believe his total for this game came to 7 demos. And it might, you know, it might be something that you guys think is quite easy to do. Look at him, he's pathing across the box multiple times here, and the goal does go in. Let's take another look at this brilliancy by Calm, who lands upfield, chases first killer into the back corner, chases him across the back wall, and gets a bump on him. And that is enough to force first killer to miss. We'll go first killer POV as well, just to see how annoying this is. I was going to say, we have to understand just how difficult it is to do what Calm does, because some people think it's an easy play style and that it's a cringe play style to go for. But my true opinion is that what he does is very, very hard to replicate. And most pros would look extremely silly if they dedicated as much time every game they play up front trying to bump opponents and steal boosts and demo them. If every pro tried to do what Calm does, a lot of them would look very silly doing it and wouldn't really land a lot of demos at all. It's extremely difficult to demo pro players, especially FaZe, who are always playing with eyes in the back of their head. And it doesn't show on the scoreboard here, but I'm pretty certain that this game was a 7 demo game for Calm. I wasn't counting, but I think this was the one that came to that total. I could check for you guys the first game of the series that we were looking at earlier. Yeah, incredible stuff. Truly incredible stuff from V1. What a turnaround. You know, again, I wanted to make this video just to, number one, point out that, you know, they seem to at least agree with the general consensus that everybody had after their last event. That was the playstyle wasn't working, that they do need to make a change. They've made that change. They've gone back to what they're used to, and it is immediately successful. Here is, by the way, the post-game stats of this. Calm, 7 demos inflicted. So, well done, Calm. Just showing that you can be an absolute rat on the playing field and still come out victorious with a dominant victory. Daniel and Beast Mode played out of their minds in this final as well. I think, you know, looking at this game through Calm's eyes just gives you the best idea of how this worked and why this worked. But I'm not trying to take anything away from Daniel and Beast Mode. I think they were phenomenal as well. But yeah, hopefully this video will make it clear to you guys why V1 style is hard to play against, why it's, at least in the short term, the easiest way and the most effective way for this team to play, and what you're likely to see from them moving forward. And yeah, if you enjoyed the look of this, be sure to give it a try in your own games. Remember that if you are playing default third man and you see your default first man in front of you, yeah, you might just wait, be patient. He's not coming back for a while, and vice versa. You know, if you're playing the default third man, hurry back. You need to save some boost every time you attack, because you are, unless it's a clear cut open net, you are the guy who has to rush back and cover as much as possible if this style is going to work for you. But yeah, GG's V1, very impressive run. I'm convinced. I think this team is going to continue to be in the S tier for the rest of the season. And it's awesome to see Calm still doing his thing, despite all the hate he gets for it. I'm a massive fan of it. I hope he never stops. I hope he never changes. I think it's wonderful. I think it's just such a fresh look to have a different style succeeding at the top level. If you got any comments, any questions about this, if this didn't make any sense to you, leave them down below in the comments section. But yeah, if this is the type of video that you like to see, if you like to see more of these, looking at stats videos, trying to break down play styles and analyze why they work, I'd love to know as well. If you absolutely hated it, let me know that so I can avoid doing videos like this again in the future. That's all we got time for today though, guys. Thanks for tuning in as always, and until next time, take care.